This morning, I'm excited to bring to you two special guests that will discuss a St. Louis area project designed to offer educator tools to create engaging and interdisciplinary lessons that capture the magic of the Eclipse while grounding the experience in educational content. So we have Matthew Magoc, if I got that correctly, Manager of School Programs and Partnerships with Missouri Botanical Gardens. And I also have Susanne Moar. She's the Pre-K Science and STEM Coordinator for Rockwood School District, and they're going to talk about what's really going on here. So I'm going to turn the program over to you guys, and we'll go from there. So Matthew, you want to get started?
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. So as Don mentioned, my name is Matthew Magoc. I'm the Manager of School Programs and Partnerships at the Missouri Botanical Garden. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about a story here. And I'm going to try to make the story quick, just to try to bring you up to speed on how me, the garden, and this coalition kind of got to creating content or compiling content for the resource for area educators. So back in 2019, the summer of 2019, the St. Louis Mayor's Office of Youth and Family Services got together a bunch of informal educators. And informal educators, it's going to be a broad topic in this coalition that came together. It included government agencies, nonprofits like the Garden, for-profit organizations, medical providers, so a whole collection of things. And the hope was to bring us all together to have conversations about what each of us are doing and how we can try to package our own expertise into something that is concise. Because a lot of times what we found in St. Louis is we are all doing wonderful, wonderful things, but it's sometimes scattered in a sense of that word, where the garden is doing one thing, the zoo is doing another thing, and there's not a lot of coordination between the two. So the hope here was that we all kind of come together and create some resources. So out of that first meeting in 2019, we kind of bubbled up into two topics of conversation that we would kind of try to address. One being the built environment and the other being resources for youth and family. And out of that, another subtopic is schools, either the public school, the private schools, or home schools, or just general adults teaching younger individuals. So we all got together, we had these ideas, and then 2020 came, and not to relive 2020, we were kind of put on hiatus for a little bit as a group due to COVID. And then we kind of bubbled back up in mid to late 2021. Around that time, this group got together and tried to solidify a little bit more of what is it that we're trying to work on. And I alluded to it a little bit ago, where we're just trying to create resources to engage in phenomena, or in this case, natural phenomena. So how could we use our expertise among all these different individuals, organizations, to provide some sort of resource that a teacher, a parent, a guardian, whatever that is, could use to engage with the natural world in a very simple way. So with that, 2021, it was still kind of the COVID era. So we created like 10 simple ways to engage children, youth in the outdoors. Because I remember, if you go back to that time, we were still trying to push being outdoors. So we created a list of different activities that we could be done in the outdoors. And that was from like the garden. So we did plant stuff, the butterfly house, we did insects, entomology, just a bunch of different ways to incorporate that. And so we did that. And the cool thing that came out of that was we actually created a poster, and we had that translated into 6 different languages that are commonly spoken in the St. Louis area. So trying to make it an equitable experience for everybody, just not our English speakers. 2022, 2023, that kind of time frame there, our goal was citizen science or community science projects. So we were just trying to get the word out to individuals on different community science projects that are out there, from Project Budburst on the plant side, pollinator studies, Monarch Watch, sorry, a bunch of different just things that are out there, trying to condense all of this information, that's so much, and just make it digestible for a person to kind of pick up and learn about. This comes to this year. At the beginning of 2020, or at the beginning of school year 2023, the group got together again, and we just started looking at natural phenomena. And that was our first conversation that we had. We just kind of posted it out into the world, into our group, What is a natural phenomena that we could tackle that allows all of our expertise to kind of come out a little bit within our organizations? And very quickly, the eclipse kind of came up and bubbled up to the top of that conversation. And so from there, we just ran with that. And that's kind of like how we got to this point today. So this coalition, or this group, it's not a hard set fast group of individuals. Some come, some go, some organizations come and go. Kind of, it's very fluid in that sense. But for this eclipse topic, we had myself at the Missouri Botanical Garden, we had the St. Louis Science Center, we had the St. Louis Art Museum, we had the Missouri History Museum, we had the Missouri Department of Conservation, Forest Park Forever, and Tower Grove Park all come together and look at this topic of the eclipse and how we could use our collective, like our site's collective institutional knowledges to help a teacher, help an educator, whatever that word educator means to that individual, talk about the eclipse in an educational setting. So from there, we kind of get to this idea where Don gets looped into our conversations and our monthly meetings. And he's been instrumental in in helping us put all of this stuff that we have into fruition based off of this Missouri Eclipse website that he's overseeing. And from there, the conversation became great. We have access to this website that none of our individual organizations can do. How could we utilize this? And so from there, the Eclipse website, it's almost, I would think of it as like a hub, for as an educator, again, loosely defining the term educator, to utilize the Eclipse that's coming up in April as an educational tool. And from there, using all of our different sites, we're able to integrate science, history, art, environmental studies, all into this resource hub. That if an educator or a group of students has an interest in any of those topics, they have, they being the educator, they have access to some well-written, loosely lesson plans, curriculum that they could tie into just to kind of add it into their tool belt. I would almost think of it as an extension to whatever a classroom teacher or whatever adult caregiver, whatever that is, an extension to what they're already doing. And just taking it in a different avenue based off of what that conversation is. So as Don mentioned, we really try to make this as interdisciplinary as possible, not just focused on the science aspect of it. So we're going to kind of go through this website here in a second. And you'll see some of these really cool historical images that Missouri History Museum was able to pull from their archives. The St. Louis Art Museum created their own little website that we linked to. The garden, myself created different grade level, loosely lesson plans that highlight observation. So we're trying to make observation of pollinators and their interactions with plants before, during, and after the eclipse. So we provide them with just like lesson conversation prompts, data collection prompts as well. There's also a bunch in there about lights and shadows, as you can imagine, especially for our younger audience, who that's going to be their not to go all school talking, but that's going to be like their learning standards in that regard. So trying to tie that into the formal education aspect as well. And then I already mentioned like the historical context as well. So with that, if you don't mind, give me 1 second and I will share my screen and we could just do a super quick little overview of this website. Now, as I do this, share my master. Don, I believe I am sharing, but just want to confirm.
Yes, you are. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So on the Mo Eclipse website, it's not live yet. Our hope is to go live next week before most of the schools depart on their spring break holiday. We have these main tabs that are currently live. Inside here, I think it's going to be next to somewhere, we'll have this educator tab. And if an educator is interested, they could click this tab and it kind of goes into all of what I just talked about. We've provided an overview, who we all are. These are all different links to our respective organizational websites for if you wanted to learn more about Forest Park Forever, Garden, MDC, whatever that is. And yeah, so this would be like the educator landing page here. So from there, we've broken it down into 4 different categories of interest: elementary education, middle school, high school, and general education topics. Each of them, each of the coalition members, if they were able to, kind of, again, compiled resources or loose lesson plans based off of that age group. I'm just trying to break it out a little bit that way. We'll start with general education just because that may be more more important to the folks on this call here today. But in the general education section, we've kind of broken down each of the organization's affiliations. So here's Missouri Department of Conservation. There's a little blurb about who they are and how you could engage with the Eclipse through that particular organization. And then a bunch of different, in this case, MDC, a bunch of different print resources that anybody in pretty much in Missouri could download at no charge. And I think a very slight, or you could get printed copies, sorry, let me rephrase that. You could download it at no charge, but print copies you could get free of charge for Missouri residents. And I think a slight fee for Illinois, Kentucky, Indiana residents, or anybody outside the state of Missouri. Here's some kind of, in my personal favorite, the Missouri History Museum. They were able to have some historical content out of their archives. Let's see if I pull this one. This was a fun one. So if an individual is interested to see what this Girl Scout troop looked like viewing the eclipse in 1935, we provide the link to the Missouri History Museum's website, and it takes you to that photo that they were able to pull. And so again, this was a group of Girl Scouts viewing the eclipse, probably not safely, I would say, in the 1930s. Yeah. So I'll kind of go back. And there's a bunch of other links in there as well. I would definitely, once this goes live, if you're of interest, I'd definitely check out the Missouri History Museum's archives. They're phenomenal, and it's not as utilized as heavily as it could be. I mean, there's some really awesome stuff in those archives. Same thing with St. Louis Art Museum. They created their own little website just based off of pulling together in their collections pieces of eclipse art. And then again, just trying to put some conversation starters around that as well. So again, as you can see, we're trying to make this as interdisciplinary. Pull those 2 examples up, History Museum and the Art Museum, just to show that we're trying to make this as interdisciplinary as possible. And that anybody that has an interest in a topic of conversation, be it art, history, the science aspect, you could find something that you could relate to in there. I'll just kind of go back up. I know I'm kind of running a little more over time here, just to show you the layout of the elementary. I'm just picking on elementary here. The layout for elementary is going to be incredibly similar to the layout for the general education. Kind of broke it down by grade bands in the elementary level aspect. So drop down box if you're in pre-K classroom, drop down box here. And then for the garden, the resources of PDF that you could download and print, just so that you could have, again, a loose lesson plan or topics of conversation at that point. Same thing with the History Museum. And then we were able to put, with your permission, the Rockwood School District's lessons in there as well. Another really awesome aspect that we were able to do, we were able to work with the St. Louis Public Library Systems, and they were able to curate a list of eclipse-related books based off of loose reading levels. So there's an early childhood eclipse book section, an elementary book section, middle school and a high school resource section. And again, the hope here of connecting with the St. Louis Public Library System was, again, since we're pretty St. Louis centric here, an adult, well, in that case, a child, a teacher, whomever that has an interest could go to their local library, reserve one of these books or check one of these books out. And so from there, the St. Louis Library System on their website curated a list of books that would be useful in the early childhood space. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And so this website really encapsulates a lot of what we're trying to do. Like, again, you've seen all these different pieces, like the art museum, the history museum, the library. We all have these different things, just trying to all come together under one loose umbrella and provide a toolkit or some resources that any educator could use. In this case, for the Eclipse, throughout the state, throughout the continent, pretty much. It's a little more specific to Missouri, just based off of where we're looking at or where we're all housed at. But by no means is it limited to just that audience. And if you are out of state and you're interested, I would definitely reach out to your local organizations, your local history museums, see if they have archival photos, or your art museum to see if they're pulling certain artifacts out for the Eclipse. Just again to have that local connection, because that was something that is vital to this group, is just again having that local connection. It's making sure that the kiddos see that it's something that it's not far away. We can do it in our backyard, and it's easy and it is accessible. So with that, Don, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, that's awesome, Matthew. This is great stuff. It's been really an honor to be part of this group and to see some of the great work that you're doing. So I'm going to turn this over now to Susanne, who will talk a little bit about, this is all great, but how I actually apply this in a school system. You've contributed some wonderful stuff specific to Rockwood, but I think you're also probably able to use some of the other stuff. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on this take from a school's point of view.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susanne Moar, and like Don mentioned, I'm the science coordinator for Rockwood School District, primarily elementary. I work with preschool through grade 5. Been doing that for a good long while. And I was worked with the task force indirectly during the last eclipse, during the 2017. So at the showcase that was at Queenie Park, we're the owners of the giant Earth that Don borrowed, and I think he used down in Cape Girardeau, just as a good showpiece. Now, as far as education goes, to Matt's point, a lot of the things that he mentioned is, part of that informal science education. So in a lot of our areas in curriculum, we have meetings where it's like the language arts meeting and the social studies meeting, but science is unique because we have our informal educators that are part of it. And pretty much everyone Matt mentioned, plus the people that come from the zoo, which are also there. So in preparing for the eclipse, just, personally being very fascinated by it as a phenomena, started working at the beginning of the year developing resources for our district. So last spring, worked with Don and the task force to get in contact with the Rainbow Symphony and getting our glasses ordered. So we had those, I think before school got out last year. We were able to get those personalized. And Rockwood School District is the largest school district in St. Louis County. St. Louis City has its own school district, but St. Louis County. We have 20,000 students. We cover 150 square miles, and we have 30 school buildings. So that is a lot to coordinate as far as making sure that we've got our resources developed. So we have 26,000 pairs of glasses, and our alternative school for our high school students that need to be in an alternative setting, they are putting together all of our boxes. So that's in the building next door. So we've got a little coalition of students who are ginormous pizza boxes putting in the glasses. We've got all of our preschool glasses hole punched so that they can wear elastic bands. But one of the things that we really have to be cognizant of with our 20,000 students is they're all minors, and we have to make sure that safety is paramount. So in the beginning, our school district safety officer and safety director have had to be very aware of what this may look like on our 30 campuses, having 20,000 children outside. And so that is something that school districts have to be aware of, is the safety component. In addition to just the glasses being safe, how do we keep our students and our staff safe? So we've got safety resource officers who are looking, they've got their own planning, whatever they're doing because they need to do it at their level. But that is something that has been coordinated from the very beginning to have the safety component considered. But Another thing that Matt had mentioned too is this whole it takes a village. So it's the city and it's the community and it's the county and it's our families that are helping educate our students. So with the resource that Matt shared with the coalition, the things that I shared with Dawn that he posted on there really are not just Rockwood specific. They are just a collection of sites and activities that educators can tap into. And because it's more of a loose, because as educators, we're professional educators, we know how to create lesson plans. So really it just took the effort of collecting these things and categorizing them, and so that teachers could access them and create lessons however they chose to. So that's what the resource collection is, that is on that the coalition site. In addition, what we did was at the 2-month mark, Megan Bray, she's our secondary science coordinator, she and I worked together on building a slideshow that on February 8th, we sent out as a blast to all of our admin, saying this is what they needed to share with their staff and their students. So I will share that. If I can. Is that there?
Yes, we can see it fine, thanks.
Okay. So the slideshow that we created was really kind of an informational piece, and just being able to just kind of walk through things that they needed to keep into consideration, because once it leaves us as developing it, it's really on the school building and the individual staff on how they want to execute. So really talking about why it's important. I actually had to tap into Dawn's expertise. So like, what is the next Eclipse going to be? We know it's not going to be for a very, very, very long time, but we've had some people voice kind of like, oh, we just had an eclipse. It's not a big deal. Like, I don't want it to disrupt my school day, but we're like, but you really need to pay attention. This is the last one that's going to be in Missouri for a very, very long time. So being able to share that information with our staff is important. And then explaining exactly what does that mean for our district? What % totality will we be at? When does it start? When's the magnitude? When are glasses coming? And then talking about the safety. So there's also an animation. I love date and time website, because you can actually zero into yours and how it'll show which direction the moon coverage is going to begin at, so that they know what to look for. And then also explaining what that might look like. What does a 98.3 magnitude look like? And where are we in comparison to the totality? I think a lot of them have the misconception that, oh, we're having a total solar eclipse, but that doesn't mean we're in totality. So making sure that they understand what that looks like. And then these are our glasses. These are the ones that we've got, so that they know that they're coming. But making sure that, because we've started having questions in February, are we getting glasses? Do they have to wear them all the time? Because we had such issues with those questions before, because it was the 3rd day of school, and there was a whole lot of making sure everyone was up to speed within 3 days. So this is giving them the time. They knew that there were questions about glasses before, and letting them know that we do need to wear glasses at all times while looking at the sun. But then also talking about what each site will get, what preschool is going to be getting, what our elementary buildings will be getting, our middle school buildings, our high schools. High schools will be getting sun spotters. Dawn has loaned those out to our high schools so that they can have those, in addition to the posters that were provided. And then the departments would be like transportation, food service, warehouse, our construction shop, that will just be getting glasses. They won't be getting any of the other fun stuff. And then just talking about questions like the planning. The last one, because it was we were in totality, they really were planning large events. You know, with like our high schools had their concession stands open, they were all down on the field. But because this isn't totality, it's not going to have quite that level of experience. So really, it's like they don't need to plan a big event, but they need to provide continuing opportunities between 12:45 and 3:15 for their students to go in and out and check the progress of the eclipse. So The other thing we had to take into consideration is lunches, because the eclipse was going to eclipse lunchtime. So our food service director, Carmen Fisher, they're doing something theme related to lunches, but they might want to do stack lunches that day so that they have more flexibility of going in and out of the building. It's also impacting our dismissal for our middle schools. So we've got, it will still be on our middle schools get out about 2:30, but we don't finish until about 3:15. So knowing that that's going to impact dismissal time is to be considered. Talked about clouds. You know, if there's a thin cloud cover, or depending on the level of cloud cover, you might be able to see it without the glasses, but that's really, you know, totally going to be judgmental. But if we have significant weather, then we are no one's seeing anything, which it'll just get dark, I think. But we want them to create that distribution plan. Number 11 there is something that we need to make schools very aware of. There's a possibility of significant staff and student absences based on their interest from last time. You might, and it's based, and because it joins the weekend, you might have people who are going out of town. I know I will be in Texas. I've already got all my reservations done and I will be there. But to be able to make sure that our schools have this information so they can plan. I can't plan what 30 buildings do. They have to plan what they're going to do. In addition, on our slideshow, and this is also included in the general information section on the coalition page, is that the National Science Teaching Association has provided an educator guide, an administrator guide, and a guide for families. So this is just something that is just helpful information that the National Teaching Association has put together on how to help just give general information for the eclipse. This is just for our area, showing what the eclipse is going to look like, what direction the moon coverage is coming from, so that they know how that's going to progress. And then this is the links to learning. In addition to the ones that we have for preschool, what we have on our cover page is literally, and this is also on the coalition page, is what the national, science standard overarching principles are. And really for preschool, it's how shadows are made. The concept of an eclipse is way beyond the mind of a preschooler, but they need to, how do I make a shadow? I know that my grandson's 3 and we just do a lot of shadow dancing. He thinks it's the most hilarious thing to make a shadow dance. And hide behind my shadow, then he disappears. He thinks that's just really funny. So getting that idea of just how to play with shadows for preschoolers. On our teacher pages, they've got in the teacher notes the compilation, which is shared. In addition to that, like for our elementary, there's just a few resources for Discovery Education, Generation Genius, and Mystery Science that we have subscriptions to. So those I've added. But the compilation of educational resources are the same ones that are on the coalition page that I shared. But we just want to make sure that when the teachers have access to this, that they can go straight to their area. It's really challenging for educators if you give them something that's K-12. A kindergarten teacher taps into that and it's like, this is all high school stuff. I don't want to look at it. So as a coordinator, it's important to be able to pare those down. Matt has pared his down to elementary. He's pared them down to middle school, high school, so that the educators can zero in on where they want to meet the needs of their students. So our kindergarten to 2nd grade, this is really, you can see it's a 1st grade standard on patterns and motion of the sun, how things move in the sky, how we have patterns of sunrise and sunset. So you have to understand, like, this is their learning goal, like how much can they understand and what do they need to focus on. By the end of 5th grade, they really are looking about how the orbits and the seasons all work together with Earth, Moon, and Sun. And then middle school is much more into exactly how eclipses are, you know, how they come about. And with high school, it's really getting into much more the physics of how the planetary systems work. But just some other, you know, we pulled up some fun facts on when the last eclipse was, which was 6.5 years ago, and then when the next eclipses are. Just trying to get them to realize this is a big deal and to maximize their day exploring the phenomenon as much as possible. and then just some general information. I probably will change the moclips.org to the Educator page when it's live, so that they've got that. I had fun looking for all my graphics that were moving, by the way. It was a lot of fun. But just, Megan and I just worked hard on making sure that our schools are prepared. But again, we've really had to work on safety. The other part that has come up with safety is our educational insurance company is really looking at the liability aspect for the district on what our responsibility is to make sure that our staff and students are safe, especially since we are educating other people's children and making sure that they are as safe as possible. So we're waiting on the ruling from, it's called Music, that's the insurance corporation that we utilize to protect our district. But yeah, that's really all I have to share. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks to both of you. Are there any questions from the group here? I want to make sure that you have a chance. I think the key word that I'm hearing is prepare, right? You need to be prepared. You can't just wait to the day of, and that there are a lot of tools. Don't recreate the wheel. So do I have any questions from the group here? I'm looking at Facebook to see if we have any questions. Matthew, you want to kind of wrap up? I guess, can we get a copy of the slides from Nancy Ketch, one of our presenters? One of our task force members is wanting to know, Susanne, if you could share the slides.
Yeah, I can make it a share to everyone. It's just there's going to be some of the links that are to our grade specific that are subscriptions,
okay,
that you wouldn't have access to. And of course, the actual timing is specific to St. Louis, our little area. But other than that, yeah, it's fine. It's pretty general as far as things that need to be considered. But I can change the setting on this to anyone who has, I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, I already have it set for anyone who has the link. So.
Okay, great. Very good. So let's go ahead and wrap up. I think I want to make sure that we're respecting everybody's time here. Matthew, you want to kind of recap from your perspective, the takeaway from this, from your presentation to the group?
Yeah, just know in one sense of the word, we're all educators, and whomever that is that we are talking to, we are teaching in some sense of the word. So we try, from the website aspect, we tried to make it a dual purpose, one that a teacher, a formalized teacher could use, but also anybody could just pull and have these conversations with whomever they want to have these conversations with. And the big thing for me is, remember when I say that word educator, that it encompasses all of us, not just like that formal teacher side of that word.
Yep, it takes the village. And that's the same thing too, with me putting on the slideshow what expectations are by grade band. Like, this is what they're capable of understanding at different levels. Sometimes we try to explain something and you get the blank stare because it's really beyond their ability to think abstractly. And our little people are very concrete. So just how to make a shadow. You talked about the moon, and like, as far as they know, it's around the back of a house. I mean, they don't know where it is really. It's just in different places all the time.
All right, great. Thanks to both of you. This is really great. We will share this again with the task force as a whole, and we actually been live streaming this on Facebook. So this is really great. I am really passionate about, of course, the Eclipse, but I'm really passionate about the educational side. I want to make sure that we leverage this wonderful experience. It won't happen for really a long time again. So thanks a lot to both.